Okay, let's also welcome on board Mahantesh then. Mahantesh, hi, afternoon. We're just talking about how strong the move from the March lows has been. The fact that we are now at the 10,300 mark. But only, the point to note is the narrow nature of the rally. In that recovery, a 1,500-point contribution on the Nifty has come in from Reliance Industries alone. Do you think the time has come that other sectors as well play catch-up? Consistently one has also been seeing some of these private banks, financials as well. The top five names, namely, they are the ones which have also begun their move. Do you think the leadership will change, or do you continue to see Reliance pulling the markets higher from here?
So I think it's an interesting question that you have asked. We will see the leadership change. Reliance has indeed pulled up the markets so thus far. And that wasn't surprising because the fundamentals of Reliance have been transformed ever since they've been managing to strike those multiple deals for Jio platforms. So the leadership will now change. We have already seen pharma companies take leadership overall. We are seeing gradually auto companies also recovering from their lows. In fact, virtually the entire universe is recovering from the lows, but the leadership has conclusively come from Reliance, and we will see that leadership soon move to the likes of the BFSI sector like we have seen in the past, to the automobile sector, and to some extent now pharma sector as well. So leadership will change in the rally ahead.
Kunal, what is your own reading? With the 14% weightage that Reliance has on the index alone, and the only one being able to beat that would be financials right now. And, then that could take really markets in a different orbit altogether from here. But do you sense any of the financial names can indeed or are indeed showing that kind of leadership on the charts?
So yes, Aisha. In fact, I'll probably add one more stock to this. I think Reliance Industries, which you were asking to, Mahantesh as well. Now, I think there's some very interesting data for Reliance Industries. If I can, showcase that. So last 3 days, I'm not leave Friday aside, but 3 days prior to that, there was a very strong and a steady case of built up for Reliance Industries. So, on the F&O contracts, there was almost an addition of 3,000 to 4,000 contracts getting added on a regular basis. Now, on Friday, when the stock hit that 1,700 plus mark or 1,788 something, the stock added a 5,000 contract on, the F&O side, and almost, 42% on the delivery volume. So you can probably expect and anticipate that how strong or the conviction is for short-term traders as well as positional traders. So they are looking to purchase Reliance Industries or buy Reliance Industries even at these prices. So that itself could probably set the tone that this stock is not here for 2 weeks of momentum. I think this is a momentum which should see a follow-through price action for the stock, and I won't be surprised that the stock can maybe rise another 10 to 15% higher from where it is right now. So I think because it's a stock which is in high momentum. Coming to your original question on the kind of stocks from financials, you're seeing signs which are developing on the large cap financial names. So what's been actually happening is the likes of, if I talk of NBFC space particularly, then I think the likes of Indiabulls Housing, Piramal Enterprise, they are taking the a lead in terms of price action. From the private sector banks, you have the likes of Bandhan Bank, RBL Bank, which are flying very high. So it's the market which is going through more of a high beta, mid cap names, moving up higher. But the large caps are just about dragging and follow through. You don't have a strong price action like a 10, 15, 20% kind of an up move into these large cap names, and which is where I think the market reaction is bent towards, that it's more towards more momentum and not towards more on the large cap side. So let's hope and expect that the large caps also try and pick up pace, because that generally sets the tone for the index also to try and lift their benchmarks higher, lift their supports higher, and continue to rise up on the higher manner.
Mahantesh, let's talk some more about financials. Since we are hearing from Siddharth Mohanty, let me get your take on LIC Housing Finance as well. And then within the financial basket, really, which way you'd go? Because we've got the handful of the quality private banks, but we've also got a lot of action in the broader markets right now.
So one thing that is very clear, and it's from the results of various financial companies, be it the largest bank SBI to even LIC Housing Finance, what we have been able to see is that roughly about 20-25% are the kind of customers who have opted for moratorium. And that's a very healthy number, because the market expectation was that we will see the moratorium being lapped up by a larger number of customer bases, probably 40% or nearly 50%, and that has not happened. which tells you that despite the lockdown situation, people have not really getting worried about the cash situation. They're not really out of cash, and therefore this is a degree of confidence that one can have on the financial sector. Having said that, collections is what is going to determine as we go forward. Collections is what is going to determine the success of these financial companies and banks, because hereinafter, once the lockdown gets sort of lifted, the company that is able to collect their money faster will be the ones who will be able to deliver better in terms of their overall balance sheet health. And therefore, we would look at that. We would look at the collection efficiency among various companies. Even collection efficiencies of microfinance companies will be very importantly has to be keenly watched. So my take is that this degree of confidence that we are seeing in terms of the financial space tells us that probably we'll have a very quick recovery as the lockdown gets lifted.
Okay, so a quick recovery would be on the cards there, fair enough. Kunal, what are some of the other, I mean, I know you mentioned quite a few that you're looking at. I want to pull up Bajaj Auto in particular, because that's a pretty strong move we're seeing on that one today.
So yeah, 6% higher for Bajaj Auto, and auto stocks have, I think, surprised everyone. Abha, and I'm not talking of today or yesterday's move, but over the last 3 or 4 months, they were the first sectors, or the first set of sector which tried to move against the market grain. They were the ones which tried to rally first higher. You had, I think, the likes of Bajaj Auto and Hero MotoCorp, which, if I'm not wrong, were the two prime leaders in terms of price movement. And then it got followed with, the likes of Maruti and Eicher Motors. Now, Bajaj Auto specifically is just marginally below its 200 moving average, which I, for one, believe is a very strong indicator to look at when you're looking at a breakout in a market which is getting into the thick of momentum. So I think this 200 moving average level for Bajaj Auto is at 2860, 2861 on the spot basis. So maybe another 1% higher, and is where I believe a bigger up move could happen to these stocks. 200 moving averages breakout generally invites a lot of long-term investment players as well. So I think from a trading play, now from a momentum play, these stocks could gradually go into more of a trending play. And I believe that's a positive sign which you're looking at, and especially names like Bajaj Auto, and I would probably add to that even a Hero MotoCorp from the auto pack.
Session that's playing out this afternoon. The Nifty 100 has a long and extensive list of gainers as well. That includes Bandhan Bank 9% higher. You've got Page Industries as well, which is comfortably higher by about 6.5%. Bajaj Finance and Bajaj Auto have been winners from the word go. BHEL2 continuing to flex its muscles at 34 rupees. There's NMDC as well as HPCL, ICICI Pru, and Bosch is another name that's active. Not to forget, there's Piramal Enterprises at about 1214. Mahantesh, wanted to get in your take on the FMCG sector. Just this morning, the Economic Times stating that the management of HUL talking about how the demand scenario will only become clearer once the September quarter kicks in, because we'll see supply being restored to a great extent, destocking filled up, and then we'll know about the situation on the underlying demand. Going by that thesis, what are you working with when it comes to the overall scenario for volumes, demand, etc. for some of these FMCG companies as things start to ease?
So number one, the monsoon progress thus far has been quite good, and the prediction for the monsoon has been normal. And we therefore see that the fortunes of FMCG companies are kind of linked with the way the monsoon progresses going forward. So we'll have a situation where normal monsoons will mean rural economic activity will be on a higher plateau. And once we reach September or thereabouts, potentially the country will be out of the lockdown. And in such a situation, FMCG demand will significantly move up from a quarter-on-quarter perspective. And I would reckon that what Lever has been trying to tell us in terms of the recovery to be seen signifies that they are being a little cautious. I would read between the lines and say probably they are looking at a situation where by September there will be a substantial revival in demand, and I would generally be very we will generally look at many of these FMCG companies because there is a story developing in terms of the ramp up in volumes that will happen once the lockdown lifts and the monsoon we get to know has been wrong. So would be positive on the FMCG sector as we go forward.
Mark Pharma on last check just eased off that little bit from the top, but still hovering around that 30% gain mark on the futures. Idea as well, after some bit of weakness all of last week when the Supreme Court postponed its AGR hearing further from last Thursday up until now, July 30th. That's where Idea is currently seeing some gains, about 11.5%. It's back to double digits. 10.15 is where that stock is. Bandhan, RBL, Indiabulls, these are some of your other winners in trade. Kunal, just about an idea, because now that, there's still a lot of time before the next hearing, the Supreme Court is on AGR dues. Do you think the stock can further build up to that 10-odd mark? Because it consolidated from last Thursday to the previous one when the AGR hearing began.
Absolutely, Aisha. And I remember very clearly we were having a discussion, post in the news flow as well, that how the stock charts could probably pan out. And I mentioned very clearly at that time as well, and I still stand by with what I had said that time, that if a stock rises from 2.5, 3.5 rupees to almost 12 rupees, so it's 3x, 4x kind of returns for the stock price. And post the news, if the stock drops maybe 1 or 2 rupees only, it comes back to 9.5 or 10 levels, it consolidates over there. It's not a loss of momentum. It's not a loss of trend or a reversal of trend. It's just a pause mode which the stock has hit. Now the pause mode could probably continue for a week. It could continue for maybe a month as well because of the steep and the sharp uprun which you've seen to the stock price. But because of that sheer pace of the first leg of uptrend, even if the stock goes through a bit of a pause or a mild reversal, I think traders should look at it as a strong reversal buy or a buy on dips kind of a candidate. So I for one believe that Idea should be a stock which can break the previous high as well. I think 12.5 approximately was the previous swing high. I for one believe that looking at the recent charts, that the stock should break that. It should cross those levels and maybe come back to even a 14, 15 kind of levels and beyond that as well, depending on the kind of news flow which actually turns around. But purely based on charts, looking at the volumes, the indicators, etc., I think it's a good stock to buy at 10 levels, or maybe if the stock comes back to say 7.5 or 8 zone. I think that's a very ideal entry zone for someone who's looking to buy Idea.
Mahantesh, the problem is that for Idea and not for Bharti, not for Reliance Jio, surely the AGR hearing is going to be extremely critical in terms of, the payment of dues. Having said that, the stock has seen a fair amount of surge and resilience as well of late. To your mind, what is the prospect of Idea going forward, or should one stick it with Bharti and Reliance?
So as far as the telecom space is concerned, it's done relatively well in this market, and Idea has been a stark underperformer. Let me go back to the days where Idea had come out with its rights issue. I think it was roughly about 12.5 rupees there that the rights issue had come in at. Many of those investors during the rights issue are now sitting on losses. Fortunately for them, the losses has been substantially recovered because of this run up that we have seen from rupees 3 to rupees 10. Having said that, the fundamental issue for Vodafone is how will it take care of its liabilities going forward. And the Supreme Court, the matter which is with Supreme Court right now is crucial to answering that question. But the principle that has been established here for the telecom companies is that there will be some leeway given. There will be a time gap allowed in terms of payment of the dues. And the only important thing to know is there going to be a one-time settlement component within that, which I believe wouldn't be there. But these aspects tell us that the principle given that the telecom companies will get relief in terms of the staggered payments they will be able to do needs to be reaffirmed during this Supreme Court hearing matter. Once that gets done, probably the stocks will rise further. So that's what the way we are seeing it, because the telecom sector as a whole is stressed with huge amount of debt and liabilities. So we'll await this outcome. But nevertheless, I must tell you that we are not too excited about a company like Vodafone. Would rather stick to the larger names, the Airtels and the Reliances.
Mahantesh, good to have you on the show. Kunal, thanks as always for joining in as well. We're going to take a very quick break with news that we're sticking by with the 10,300 mark, eased off just a wee bit from the top. Breadth as well continues well in favor of the advances. We'll take a break. Lots more lined up when we come back.